A man named Alderson wakes up disoriented and alone in a stark, cubicle white room. The room feels sterile and lifeless, with only its geometrical precision breaking the monotony. Hatches are at the center of every wall, including the floor and ceiling. 6 doors in total, all leading to the unknown. Confused but determined, Alderson begins his exploration, opening each door. The rooms beyond are identical but tinted in different colors: orange, green, blue, and red. His curiosity drives him forward, and after a moment of hesitation, he climbs into the orange room. But then, without warning, a hidden razor-sharp metal grate swings down from the ceiling. The trap activates in an instant, leaving Alderson in pieces. The room grows silent once more, as if nothing had happened. The cube claims its first victim, and its deadly nature becomes clear. Elsewhere, in another cubicle room, 5 strangers find themselves thrown together in the same unsettling environment. Quentin, a police officer with a take-charge attitude; Worth, a quiet and cynical man; Holloway, a passionate doctor; Wren, a seasoned escape artist; and Levin, a bright but nervous mathematics student. None of them remember how they got there or why they were chosen. But one thing is certain: they need to find a way out. Wren, who has experience in high-stakes survival, quickly takes the lead. He explains that some rooms are booby-trapped and demonstrates his method of testing them, tossing a boot into a room first to trigger any hidden dangers. It's crude but effective, at least for now. As they move through the maze, Levin notices strings of numbers inscribed on the hatchways between rooms. Though their purpose isn't clear yet, she begins to suspect they hold a clue. The group's tenuous camaraderie is tested when Wren takes a misstep. Trusting his own instinct over his boot test, he steps into a room. A hidden mechanism sprays acid into his face, killing him instantly. Panic spreads among the survivors, who realize that some traps might only react to human presence. Wren's death underscores a harsh truth: no one is safe here, and every decision carries life or death consequences. As the group regains composure, Quentin tries to make sense of their predicament. He suggests that each of them must serve a purpose, with their individual skills meant to contribute to their survival. Quentin is confident in his logical thinking as a police officer, while Levin's mathematical background seems promising for solving the cube's mysteries. Holloway, skeptical of Quentin's assumptions, voices her belief that the cube is a sinister government experiment. Worth, meanwhile, remains evasive about his background, fueling tension among the group. Their journey takes an unexpected turn when they discover another occupant of the cube, a mentally challenged man named Kazan, who falls while Quentin is checking the ceiling hatch. Holloway insists on bringing him along, seeing him as vulnerable and in need of protection. The others reluctantly agree, though his presence complicates their already fragile group dynamics. Levin begins deciphering the numbers on the hatchways and hypothesizes that rooms marked with prime numbers might be the ones with traps. Trusting her theory, Quentin ventures into a seemingly safe room, only to be caught in a razor wire trap. Though he escapes with minor injuries, Levin's theory is discredited, leaving them back at square one. Frustration boils over, and cracks in the group's unity begin to show. Quentin grows impatient with Holloway's conspiracy theories, Kazan's unpredictable behavior, and Worth's refusal to contribute. It's Worth who finally breaks the stalemate, revealing a shocking truth. He was part of the team that designed the cube's outer shell. However, he knows nothing of its purpose or who operates it, leaving the group no closer to understanding the grander scheme. Still, this revelation gives Levin a new insight. She deduces that the numbers might represent Cartesian coordinates, pinpointing the cube's layout. With this discovery, the group sets its sights on moving toward the edge of the structure, believing it to be their way out. But the cube isn't done testing them. Vibrations ripple through the structure, signaling its constant shifts. The group presses on, encountering new challenges and narrowly avoiding death. When they reach what they believe to be the edge, they find their path blocked. Every upward room is booby-trapped, forcing them to retrace their steps in search of another route. With their boots dwindling, they use sound and motion to test the traps. One tense moment arises when Kazan inadvertently makes a noise, nearly costing Quentin his life as the room's deadly mechanisms activate. The constant threat of death, combined with the cube's incomprehensible design, takes its toll on the group's morale. The sense of progress they once had now feels like an illusion, leaving them questioning whether escape is even possible. The group's journey becomes increasingly perilous as tensions rise among them. The cube is not just a physical challenge, but a psychological one, and it's starting to unravel everyone. Quentin, still holding on to his role as the leader, grows increasingly authoritarian. His frustration with Holloway, whom he sees as a conspiracy-spouting burden, reaches a boiling point. Kazan's mental state, though largely benign, irritates Quentin further, while Worth's cynicism and seeming lack of effort provoke even more animosity. As they inch closer to what they believe is the edge of the cube, they discover a room unlike any they've seen before. A gap separates it from the outer shell of the structure. Excitement ripples through the group. They're finally close to freedom. But there's still one obstacle. The gap is too wide to cross unaided. Using their clothes to fashion a makeshift rope, they send Holloway, the lightest among them, to investigate. Suspended in the void, she reaches the outer wall and confirms their suspicions. They are indeed on the cube's edge. The sight of the endless void beyond is both awe-inspiring and terrifying. But the cube isn't done playing its cruel tricks. As Holloway swings back toward the group, the structure vibrates violently, almost knocking her loose. Quentin grabs her arm, holding on as she dangles precariously above the void. In a moment of chilling betrayal, he lets her fall, sending her plummeting to her death. The others, unaware of Quentin's true intentions, believe it was an accident. Quentin, now fully embracing a darker side of his personality, coldly rationalizes her loss and takes command once more. As they regroup, exhaustion sets in, and the fragile alliances begin to collapse. Quentin's behavior becomes increasingly erratic and domineering, particularly toward Levin. He tries to manipulate her, subtly implying that they should abandon the others and escape together. Levin, now distrustful of Quentin, looks to Worth for support. Worth, despite his earlier detachment, steps up to defend Levin and Kazan from Quentin's growing aggression. Their fragile unity shatters when Quentin snaps, physically attacking Worth and throwing him through a floor hatch in a fit of rage. To the group's dismay, they discover Ren's corpse below, a grim reminder that they've been traveling in circles. The realization dawns on them: the cube itself is not static. The rooms are shifting within the structure, rearranging in a maddening pattern that makes it nearly impossible to track their progress. What they thought was forward momentum was nothing more than the cube's cruel illusion. Levin, however, refuses to give up. Piecing together more clues from the numerical inscriptions, she begins to refine her theory about the cube's mechanics. She realizes that the traps are not triggered by simple prime numbers, but by powers of prime numbers. This breakthrough injects a glimmer of hope into the group. They now believe they can predict which rooms are safe to enter, giving them a chance to avoid further deadly traps. But Levin doesn't stop there. Her mathematical brilliance shines through as she digs deeper, realizing the numbers don't just indicate the traps. They also reveal the position of each room within the cube at any given time. With this knowledge, she hypothesizes the existence of a bridge room, a single room that, when the cube shifts, will align perfectly with the exit. The group's remaining strength is now focused on finding this elusive bridge room. As they navigate the cube's shifting layout, they rely on Kazan's hidden talent. Despite his mental challenges, he reveals himself to be an autistic savant with the ability to quickly calculate prime factorization, a skill that proves invaluable in deciphering the cube's deadly code. With his help, they narrow down their path, inching closer to what they hope is salvation. But Quentin, driven mad by the cube and his own growing paranoia, becomes increasingly dangerous. His belief that he alone is fit to survive pushes him to act against the group's best interests. The tension finally boils over when he lashes out, threatening Levin and Kazan. Worth, despite his injuries and general apathy toward survival, intervenes. A brutal struggle ensues, with Worth managing to incapacitate Quentin long enough for the others to escape into the next room. Quentin, however, is relentless. Determined to regain control, he catches up to them, his desperation fueling his pursuit. But Worth, clinging to life and purpose for perhaps the first time, seizes an opportunity. As Quentin steps onto the hatch above him, Worth opens it, sending Quentin plunging to what appears to be his death. The remaining trio, Levin, Worth, and Kazan, find themselves on the brink of the cube's final mystery. They've made it so far, defying death at every turn, but they know that Quentin, now consumed by madness, won't stop pursuing them. The cube has tested their bodies, their minds, and their very humanity, and its endgame is rapidly approaching. As the cube's relentless maze continues to shift and confound, the trio presses forward with a mix of desperation and determination. Levin's mathematical expertise, paired with Kazan's uncanny ability to perform prime factorization, guides them closer to their goal, the bridge room that will align with the cube's exit. Every step they take is fraught with danger, but their teamwork and perseverance carry them through. The cube vibrates once more, signaling another shift in its deadly configuration. Levin meticulously calculates their path forward, double-checking the numbers with Kazan's help. Worth, though battered and still cynical, finds a new sense of purpose in supporting Levin and protecting Kazan. For the first time, he shows a glimmer of hope, clinging to the possibility of escape. Finally, after what feels like an eternity, they reach the room they believe to be the bridge. It's a bittersweet moment. The group is physically and emotionally drained, but this small victory renews their spirits. The room is eerily quiet, its hatch glowing faintly with the promise of the unknown. This is it, the exit they fought so hard to reach. Levin and Kazan prepare to make the final step to freedom, but Worth lingers, his expression heavy with resignation. Worth reveals what he's been hiding all along, his profound sense of emptiness. He admits he has nothing to live for outside the cube. The irony is cruel. Despite his role in creating the structure's outer shell, he has no interest in escaping it. Levin pleads with him to reconsider, to find a reason to survive. But before their conversation can go any further, a chilling sound interrupts them. Quentin is back. He bursts into the room. Armed with a makeshift weapon, he fatally stabs Levin, her cries of pain echoing through the cube. Worth, fueled by a mix of rage and despair, confronts Quentin in a brutal struggle. Though Quentin overpowers him, Worth manages to hold his ground, buying time for Kazan to escape through the hatch to the outside world. As Kazan steps into the unknown, Worth uses his last ounce of strength to drag Quentin back toward the room's shifting hatch. The cube vibrates again, its mechanical groans growing louder as the walls begin to realign. Quentin struggles, clawing at Worth, but it's too late. The room shifts, and the hatch slams shut, crushing Quentin between its deadly panels. Now alone with Levin's lifeless body, Worth collapses. His injuries and exhaustion finally catch up to him, and he succumbs to his fate, lying still as the cube shifts one last time. Meanwhile, Kazan steps fully into the light. What lies beyond remains a mystery. But for Kazan, the cube's nightmare is finally over. He's the sole survivor of a harrowing ordeal that tested every limit of human endurance and spirit. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.